Hello, hello. How's it going? Hello. So I hope you like the scenery change a bit, and I'll be switching it up here and there just to keep things interesting, most certainly. And so I want to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about truth a little bit more. We're going to be talking about love, but we're going to put inspiration in front of it, because that's the kind of president that I would be. But it's also just because I'm your happy healer. Make no mistake about it. Okay then. Have you found yourself needing of inspiration lately? Because I'll tell you what, we just can't get enough of it in this hellacious world that they put us in. And I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela has said there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one that you're capable of living. Not sharing your experiences in school and applying your colleges and picking your major in college and deciding what you want to do in life. I'm sure people told you, make sure you have something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept. Something to fall back on. If I'm gonna fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. At least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test that has 9 dots that you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 5 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams.
Tonight at past midnight Eastern.
Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in history of baseball, but you don't hear about the strikeouts. You only hear about those home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that, because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There is no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for people in their own minds today, but I will tell you, embrace it, because it is inevitable. In the acting business, you fail all the time, and I am at the heart of it, an actor and also a performer, and also in this life an artist, as we all are, and should then and therefore be present in those moments of human need. And many of us instead are found lost out of that game. But here's the thing, despite all of the times I've failed, I've never quit. I just fell back. But I walked out of there to prepare for the next situation and the next, and every single time I've prayed on it, and I've been able to lift and pull from deeper places. Despite the drug addiction, I came back. Despite all the problems, going overweight by 150 pounds, I came back. And it didn't matter. And I said, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you become wise and you get a haircut. So you will catch a break. And I caught a break by finding love. Last year, I found myself homeless and with no way out because my home was being occupied by somebody who I gave my heart to, and that they double-crossed me, but still love carried me through that day and those months. You have to have the guts to fail, to step out there and do it. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. To get something you've never had, you have to do something you've never did. Imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfilled potential. The ghosts with the ideas you've never had done. The talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say we came to you because you could have brought us to life. And now we have to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are gonna be around your bed when your time ends? And they're trying to kick me off the air, don't you let them. I just got back from doing a video earlier, and I'm sharing with you these constant messages from our divine we're all getting. And all of these areas that are pulling in just for me is a testament to our times and technology. You better believe all these places all over the world are able to come into social media, and that's what the beauty of it all really is. And we need people to come together. We need everybody to step up and do their part and to have the courage.
Here we go.
But the problem is they don't have that courage, and so that's why we have to everybody pull into a deep place to find it. Yep. What I'd like to do is I want to show you guys a video here. And it's just a background.
Tonight, past midnight Eastern, local HappyHealer times past 9 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. Your HappyHealer President is here live with you. Here I am.
Alright. I want to play this for you.
Yes, I am.
It's good for you?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
And I want to talk about this because these are experiences we're all having, really.
Come to mind. I'm not sure it generalizes across all Mormons, but there's a certain sense of cleanliness and neatness and warmth, and willing to look you right in the eye. It's hard to put in the words something about Mormons in general. I'm very careful about these kinds of generalizations, but you have that quality in spades. And my compliments are straight up honest, as yours are. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of different stereotypes of different religions, and that's kind of what we came to talk about, is that there's a holistic element over all religions, and that we shouldn't be intolerant and
not at all, right? Are you hearing him? That's very important for all of our progress.
How much education did you get?
I have a master's degree in business.
I want you to hear it.
And an undergraduate in business.
And
these are real people.
Working?
Yes. I do. Actually, I do Medicare sales right now and work with people of age, predominantly, and people of the lower income echelon that are both generally Medicare and Medicaid card carriers. That's what I do.
How long have you been doing that?
I've done it almost since last September. And before that, I had banking experience of about 22 years in mortgage banking, but I can't pick up that sword anymore. I don't believe in that anymore. So,
see what the conscience, it makes you do great things. That's a power.
We're dealing with people of that older age bracket.
Because go back to what you asked was my destiny in life. Think about it. If you look at banking, you're putting people into a home, but you're also encumbering them in a debt that we found recently can be harmful to them. Okay? When you're working with people of lower echelon, you're meeting the very basic needs of people that don't have means, and you're helping them with insurance that can serve them, love them, lift their burdens, and you're only doing that to them if you can help them and assist them.
And you want to know what love is?
When you come in and you talk to them,
love is actually insurance, isn't it? Because it brings up a whole new value from the people up. That's why if we ever have a candidacy that's actually going to be what the people are asking for, it has to start from the bottom up. I've realized that, because none of them are ever going to fulfill it. So the question is, which one of us possess that? That's why I'm saying I feel I do, and I'm saying that that'll be so much better than what we've had before. And I think I drive a very sane argument. I think it's sane, because I think that when it comes down to the options and you really look at an individual and what they've been through, the kinds of things that God had put me through in my 40 years actually serve humanity very well. And I can relate with so many Americans. And I see what's happening right now, and I say to myself, wow, how such great people on both sides could be lured into a civil war without realizing they're heading into it, for one thing. But they kind of see it now, but they're still like trapped in their own way of thinking, and they just can't realize that they were both duped by the same system. And it's scary for us because we get it so easily. And that love, and especially for the enlightened people, they go through it even the most. I know I'm speaking on behalf of them now, because the masses, they're telling the enlightened people that you are a waste of time and energy. Like the masses largely gave up on love, and their lives are becoming very dull for it. So it's really hard to break through to that. But love is a very powerful energy. It can break through anything. That's why I'm so confident that when you put your lot in love, and that it's an honest lot, and that you can show, and that's what media, this coming of age, has allowed us to be able to do. A smart man coupled with being an honest broker of truth, somebody with the ability to stand up and do this very thing could do that. Why not? It becomes kind of like the system that can feed its own self. It doesn't need the energy from some major outside source. The energy is there. It's love. So when you come to that conclusion, the question then becomes, where can you grab energy from? Because you're coming from a pure place, love, and you're honest about who you are. So you can therefore love at the same time and ask for, hey, give me a chance. We've earned an opportunity to also have our opinion at least heard once, because it could be the only way out for all of us. So whereas for so long we've had the ability to put things off, we can't put things off any longer and still be okay doing it. That's what people are starting to realize now. That's what makes my candidacy unique and different than all the other candidacies. That's why indeed it's even hard for me to hear the other candidates talking, and I listen because I have to be informed, but they just don't have the answers like I do, that's for sure. Because everything they do leads us into a civil war. This pain and hell and suffering doesn't stop for the American people for years to come their ways. I mean, my goodness. My way, we're going to be out of this soon. And we're going to be on to building the new world that's worth living in. That's what we all want, virtually. And that's what end of racism is. That's what it looks like in practicality. That's what dealing with our bigotry in meaningful ways means. You can't justify greed, that ugly greed, and I've been talking about that a lot and really defining it. I've been defining it. You can't do that and defend that over and over again and say it's okay and then still feel in your own heart like you've given a fair handshake to even what's possible in our times. When they did that in 1800s, it's different. They had to do certain things then. Love makes compromise. Remember that. I teach. Love makes compromise. And so love will compromise, and it'll compromise up into the point when it doesn't have to anymore. Then it demands. And right now, love is in a position to demand on this one, folks. Love is in a position to demand, and that's why I'm here. Because we have to demand to get this right. We don't have the time left anymore to play these guys' game. And so the truth is already out there in sufficient amounts that somebody who gets that truth clearly, who one only needs to look at it and say, okay, I could speak about it because I see it. That's the guy who needs to be in charge. That's me. Unfortunately. Otherwise, somebody else would have that. But fortunately, I have that. Now, so what are we going to do about that then? Are we going to continue supporting these other candidates who don't have that? That's the question. Because God never said, nor did the truth. I mean, where did you come from? Do you honestly think that you started off a fart in a elephant's dimension in another world, and that's like your purpose? That's it? Like, is that honestly what you think you are here for? Ladies and gentlemen, wake up, look around. You are the center of your own universe, aren't you? Yes, you are. You have self-determination, but we're losing it because we're all preferring love. And we're preferring a better way. And I spoke about it earlier. I said, even the rich, they have from underneath that clawing at their toes. That's not comfortable. And it's because that justice of love is after them. They get it. We all get it. And guess what? In the new world that we're building, there'll still be great opportunities, even better than before, because greed doesn't go away. It's a human condition. So there's going to be people up there doing so well. They would have done better in the new world. We'll have to keep them in some kind of check. But they would have done way better than in this world, because there'll be so much more power of that love which creates. Remember that. None of them bring any new creation with them because they don't love. They only give us civil war and more of this hell. So that's what the, I know you get it. It's written on the heart. So you can't even say you don't get it. All you could say is to your favorite candidate, go listen to what this guy just said. So that we do that. But better than that, you could just come with me, and that's really what you need to do, because these guys couldn't listen to enough to get it. And so that's why I'm out here. And until I can see a candidate or anybody that has even remotely these answers that also shows a path to victory, because remember, I'm gay, I fit a lot of different bills that'll make me acceptable to the masses in this race. And so, why would I not offer that if I have that ability? That is what we are supposed to do. And in the new world, that is exactly what all of us will do. Because that's how love is. You're not waiting for the next guy. You're just doing your ambition, your passion. Instead of like in today's world, it tells you you have to make so many, my goodness, until the cows come home concessions, and you make them, it becomes your prison. You don't need, and nor do any of us need to make all of those concessions. That was a bygone world long ago past. If we stay in that world, it'll gladly allow us. However, the greedy will be controlling the wonders of this world, and they're not sharing them. Further, they're not sharing them, but that's just part of the story. We're missing them. We're missing in action. We're not doing our best. It's like what I said earlier. We have Einsteins that can't afford to do their Einstein stuff, so they're working at McDonald's. We need not do that in the 21st century. Everybody can pursue their passions. Rich people can do that right away. Back in the 50s, one person was able to raise an entire family. The mom was just an at-home mom. That means you spent all day at home. Now, somehow, here we are in already this modern world, which many would say is a new world from then, and so would I. And where do we find ourselves? Where parents are working 2 jobs, even having to go with, unbelievable, both parents working 2 jobs. And so the insanity has no end. Greed has no care. Remember that. Greed doesn't operate off of care. It demands. That's how it survives. It demands. If it would not survive if it did not demand. Nobody would not react for greed that way. It must make its demands to get whatever it gets. Whereas love, it creates. Greed has to steal from love every time. That's where it comes from, because greed is part of that hate element. Hate ultimately is like evil, which is basically nothingness forever. And so greed it's got to take from love where it has nothing. Of course, duh. And God is love and truth. And the truth is everything you see around you is created by God. And that God loves you clearly. That's why you're here. That love is what affords us to be here. Without that love, we wouldn't even be here. Remember, love is why any of us are here. Never forget that. So it's that greed that's ultimately robbing from that love. And we don't give that love value, folks. And don't say you don't know it's love. Oh, it's nature. What do you think draws all beings together? Love. It's that power. You better believe it. And it's so strong. And it's favoring humanity in this reality. Think about it. Yeah, we have a God, and that God must love us very much. Well, the facts say that. And I'm a pretty practical kind of guy. That's just the way it goes. And I like science. That's God's science. You get to learn a lot about God's world when you look at it from his scientific perspective. You get to see things. You get to see some of the magical things, because that's kind of where science is these days, if you know anything about science. So yeah, there is a magical world right there. And I could see it quite clearly. And the answer is quite clear. It's love, and many people are missing that. Why? All right, let's hear some of this guy some more. He's awesome.
A plethora of experiences, and they teach you and they lift you, and you feel their presence when you talk to them. It's a wonderful thing, an aspect of that type of business. It really is. If I could do that all day long, I just would love it. It's great. Yeah, you don't make as much funds, but it isn't that about that.
Like I say, love don't pay so well in America.
A lot of stuff. I wanted to say crap, but I shouldn't do it. It's a family show. That occurs between human beings, stuff that's really important, and experiencing each other, rather than just the words. And you have, now you stand the question is, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend? And we cover all the bases, whether you're gay or not, but do you have a partner?
I do.
Of course you do.
Again, I've been married to my wife for, 30, 35, I think that's what it is.
And what's great, we're unified.
Yeah, and I just mentioned
we're all together on this. We're unified. These guys, I talk to them, and they call themselves, oh, I'm Christian or this or that. But when I talk, they ultimately get it. They get it. We're all on the same page. We're universal, and I'm a Christian. But you have to see the truth. And I have no problem saying I love Jesus. Why is that so hard for some people? I just don't get it. But anyways, the point is, you just get focused on what matters most, and you get people's hearts at ease, and you know how to do that, and you bring us back into the area of life. And love allows all of that.
too that she just had open heart surgery.
Yes.
So we're going through this portion of our life that we didn't really count on, and we're connected as a family. Yeah.
How long ago was the surgery?
It was a month ago. Well, actually, the 31st of last month. Yeah.
And the result of the surgery was encouraging. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Is that true?
It was successful surgery, is the best way you could say it. She had a leaky heart valve, which could have caused her to die, but they repaired it. And it's repaired it works like brand new, going to the results. She's just going through recovery right now.
Yeah, and she's recovering okay.
Yes, she is, but not as fast as she wants to, but yes, she is.
Yeah. Can she do some sort of normal activities around the house? Or is she still kind of slow and doesn't get around too much yet?
I want to say hi, Josh, and I want to say hi to Joanna. How you guys doing?
Pain in her chest. She gets nauseated, but she's like a trooper, and she walks.
And send me questions.
Does she hate you when she does?
Yeah, she does. That's what she's been doing. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Politically, do you have any political leanings left or right or center or what? Or do you avoid talking about those kinds of things?
No, I don't avoid talking about that at all. I like those conversations. I'm an independent registered.
Mm-hmm.
I have. I don't really believe in the platform of almost on both sides of the platform. I cannot support the Republican side in the way they do things.
Ultimately, here's the thing. There's a lot of conservatives, and that's why I say, when I say to the Democrats, there's a lot of us that are conservative in a sense that when you really figure out at the core of the human being and your word to the truth is conservatism, you want the very best for the human soul that you could possibly get for the bang of this life. That's the point. That's what they want. That's what they're in it for. So conservatism is down with this. That's what they want. They want to bring the most amount of happiness. And the thing about it is, when you finally get to the pinnacle, to finally realize that there's just you and like 2 or 3 greedy people there that just all suck, that's not the life. And that's what this life is. The best ones are always down. And so then you have to figure out, well, how do we all end up at that really cool party? It's love. And that's why love is so important, because then it brings us together. But love is perfect itself. But the ways getting there, it's not perfect. You have still evil in things always to contend with. Greed, that little guy, huh? He just never gives up. And that's why I'm talking like that in terms of these different elements, because they all have their own kind of force and their own personality. And I contend that, well, it lives in us. What do you think about that? And that's how I know that I'm talking to it. You see, I figured that out. In many ways, we're all sort of the same, aren't we? You better believe that. There's so much truth that comes out of just knowing the truth. And the closer you get, the more you figure out. But you never figure ultimately everything out. God always leaves there for you just enough to always have something more beautiful standing right there, ready to discover. And that's what we are. That's why we ever did do things like yearn to go to the moon, or even to make it to North America, to build and to discover. That is in the human spirit indeed. So we have to respect that about ourselves and continue to actually touch on it, because there is so much to be gained there. And within the human spirit, you're either living or you're not. This stagnation of just a fat cow sit in place, that's death and greed. If you're allowed to sit in just one place, that's greed, and that's ultimate lazy. People want to talk about your happy healer being lazy. Well, you already know the life that I'm working for, and that's the life that I'm working for because that's the one I want to be in. And it don't exist here. But it can. Some people think they have to wait until after they are already dead to have a great life. But that's not true either. God wouldn't have done that to you. No. I contend this actually is a fair place. Justice can be had here. But you have to make it with love is the cousin of justice. Just like jealousy is the cousin of hate. You know, it's good to know this stuff, to make the associations. So this way you can find out in your own mind. Oh, and put epiphanies. That's what they're called. And if you have a lot of those with me, don't be shocked. I've had a lot of my own. And that's how you build. That's how you build your overall mental capacity to deal with this hell that we're going through and to stay steady on that path of righteousness, which ultimately is love. Remember, it was never about the New Testament where you have perfection as being the number one quality. That is not expected of you. Grace tells you that, but you ignored it. The Old Testament's right there, and there you go. And I contend the Bible's also under attack. So you better really open your ears. Truth people are very needed these days that see and can comprehend and explain and tell this truth. You don't curse that. You allow somebody to take that courage to do that. Golly, do you even know what kind of courage it takes? even for this man to do what he's doing. And all he's doing is trying to live a life worth living. Our campaign slogan. Yeah, that campaign slogan is going to make me your next president. If love have it. And I believe in love. You already see I get those goosebumps because I could see it even when you guys can't. I just look at the screen. I say, okay, look, this hell is for real. It comes through the news every day. I just see the stream, and I haven't forgotten about that stream. I remember it. Many of you forget, but when you love only and you're not constantly looking for what's behind your back, because love don't allow nothing to attack you from behind. That's true. That's why it's easy to be courageous when you love. That's what happy healers do. So you can actually step far out of that box. You sure can. And you can really get to what we're all looking for, and to really get to some answers that work for people, that help them grow and mature into something beautiful that they can take on to go and be. We all want to be something. We all do. I'm going to put him back on. I enjoy hearing him talk and commenting in between, because a lot of this stuff I've heard these guys talk. I respect them tremendously. Yes, they are like gurus to me. You make no mistake about it, because it confirms what I know to be true too. And I'm confirming also then what they know. So we do confirm each other's truths. And you just get to a point where it's like, okay, we've got all this figured out. Now someone's just got to act. And you know we're reaching that point too.
It's on the Democratic side that I have leanings of not supporting as well.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So I like the dialogue of both. So the same element when we walk in the gym, it doesn't matter to me. I would like to hear what they have to say, and then talk and counsel about it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the best answer.
Nothing is off limits, right?
No, I don't have a strong political leaning toward one side or the other.
What's the difference between sympathy and empathy and compassion? Sympathy and empathy and compassion. You know what the difference is between those three things?
I don't categorically, but I would give you my best answer on that.
Please. Mm-hmm. They're kind of hard to answer.
They are. I mean, sympathy is a sense of having a sense of feeling for someone in their position, regardless of if you think that they either brought that among themselves or it was something that happened to them. Empathy is more of an internal feeling. You feel what that person's feeling. It's like you can almost, when you can get this feeling in your gut about them. Yeah. Compassion is probably its very close cousin. Mm-hmm. Would you not say? Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Compassion, perhaps, is empathy acted upon.
I've never heard it put that way before.
Perhaps that's what it is, because you're actively going and doing something compassionately for and behalf of that person, not just having empathy, or in its. That's what I would say.
I toy with my education as a psychologist, but now and then I come up with a new idea for me. And if someone seems sort of lacking in empathy, generally speaking, then I say, do you have EDD?
Empathy dysfunction disease?
Something like empathy deficiency disorder.
Oh, there you go. That's funny. Yeah, that's good.
But then you have to be pretty severe in that regard to warrant that diagnosis, yeah. And sometimes I discover that my empathy qualities are not as what they should be, because a few minutes later I thought, I should have listened to that person a little longer. They needed me to hear them, because it comes around full circle, because if I really listen to them and hear them, then I feel better, or something that goes on there.
I believe in that, yeah, that's right. Are you saying there's a reciprocal aspect of you listening, that you're empowered and strengthened after the fact? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I agree with.
Yeah. See, now we're going back and forth as we oftentimes do in the gym. It's really difficult for you here and now because I'm hosting this show and I've been doing this for a number of years, and I'll be asking you questions that you're not familiar with anyhow. But we talk about or touch on those kinds of issues in the gym.
That's what we do.
Between going to different sets and different machinery. Yeah,
that's right.
You want to see this guy with his shirt off?
Not so much lately.
You're looking good. BSing, yeah. Any the memberships in political, social, or civic organizations that are worth mentioning?
No, not that I can think of.
Persons from the past or alive today that you particularly look up to or looked up to, or like any names come to mind for you from history or alive today?
You asked me that question the last time I was here. I remember, and I remember what I answered, and I would probably still say the same. I mentioned to you that I spent some time in South Africa during apartheid, and Nelson Mandela was at the time in Robben Island as a prisoner.
Yes.
And when South Africa came out and Nelson Mandela came out, I've watched his documentaries and the like. He's an inspiration to me, Nelson Mandela, because of his strength and what he overcame in all those years. And so I would probably answer the same on that. People of history.
And I will say,
to my mind, I would probably
he likes Nelson Mandela. In many of my truth friends, we see the miracle in the Mandela effect. And that's why I say sometimes I've seen Bible changes, in fact. And this isn't something that should scare people or anything, because the fact is a lot of people see miracles. It's not even that it makes you special, really. You have to still deal with all the same crap everybody else does. It's not like you're gifted in any way. You just can see. And the more people that can see, then the more people that see the truth, and that we should do something about that truth. And this is a very magical world. And it's so amazing what we can really do if we put our mind to it. So that's why it's important that we know that. And that's why when we all go in that direction, remember, this is the spiritual roots of love and tolerance that we're watching here. Very important.
Because that's what I answered last time, and I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a marvelous memory there, huh?
I do remember answering that. Yeah. And I think that's a natural thing for me, because I remember him overcoming so much. Mm-hmm. Turned a whole nation state around. Yeah. Apartheid was deeply enrooted in that state of a police state. And I remember seeing, when I was there as a missionary. There was a small town. Can I go off really quick?
Of course, please.
There was a small town called Brockpond that we were in that was primarily a Dutch Reformed blue-collar town. And the government was integrated in with the religion, and there was these little trucks that drove around with cages on the back. Mm-hmm. And at nighttime, at 10 o'clock at night, or there was a time where a siren would go off that we used to remember when we were kids. There were air raid sirens, if you remember that time in the 60s. Yes. And I asked someone about it, and really what it was a curfew. And if you were out after that time period and you were a black human being, they would pick you up, stick you in the back, and you would watch them drive by with these people in the back with their fingers in the cage like that. I did see that. I watched that, and I lived among the people there and loved the people, but the country went through that metamorphosis, and that was because of one man. Primarily, him resisting, and there were exterior forces and wars and things going on, but predominantly Nelson Mandela was that person that was the figurehead. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
And so, you think about one person, can one person make an impact in their life?
Yeah.
And whether it's that big of an impact or myriads of smaller impacts over myriads of smaller people, we make an impact.
If we were magic, could we then make an arrangement where we could have 3 or 4 Nelson Mandelas to spread around the globe to have things be better for human beings?
That would be a great thing. But that's our calling to do that.
Yeah.
That's our calling, and that's what we cannot shy from. You understand? In every way, shape, or form, we impact people. And we're rewriting our history books on that. We cannot shy from that. We cannot have signs like this that are not stated in our simple way, in the most humblest of way, right? We don't know if we'll become a Nelson Mandela, but we should reach out and listen to our intuitive voice and talk to people and touch those little impacts of people that might myriad down and impact someone else to become a Nelson Mandela. Follow me?
Yes, I think so.
That's our talks. These are our gym talks, aren't they? Yeah, wonderful things. That's why I love talking with you so much.
You have pictures or stuff now. If you want to show some of that during the second half of the show, or you want to wait till we?
I'm good. We'll
let's take a break now.
Okay, that's great.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes and talk about spiritual roots are and what they're interested in.
And I just want to pause for a moment and just show you this guy's name here, just in full disclosure. Dr. Don Baham, friendlydon@aol.com. And I'll send him a message, let him know that we're talking about the same thing. He seems like a nice guy to me. And we'll get that going.
We're going to be talking about spiritual roots of love and tolerance and all sorts of other stuff related to it. And my mind's kind of wandering now because there were so many things I want to talk to you about, but we'll just let it happen. So, how shall we start? You have some photographs, or you want to talk about some of the questions you submitted to me as prompt questions? What do you want to do?
I could start off maybe
yes.
Show a picture of my father, because where would I show this? Just here?
Give it to me.
So this is a picture of my father and mother on the date after they were married. They're in their 50s Buick here, and they're about ready to drive away from their wedding.
Wow.
In 1950. And it's a wonderful picture because my mom's 12 years his junior, beautiful, and he married the love of his life. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And it's a great period picture. In relation to this, in our topic, spiritual roots of love and tolerance, I told a story about my father, who was a voracious storyteller. And it was a segue into him teaching and mentoring us about listening to your inner voice and hearing thoughts that come into your mind that would direct you. And it tells the story of my dad, interesting enough, as a B-26 bombardier in the European theater.
I remember that period.
Yes, and he, that's interesting. I can't go that far back.
I'm a World War II vet.
Yeah, my goodness. So he heard a voice. He was a bombardier, and the Air Corps told him never to pull his head out of the sight. And he heard a voice distinctly behind him that said,
"On the sight, your face is right against it so you can see what's going on." His
head's right down as if he was peering down this cup in a Norden bomb sight.
Yeah.
It's probably not the best analogy because it occurred during a wartime about love and tolerance, but it is because he heard a voice inside of his head that told him to get his head out of the sight, and he ignored it. And then he heard it again, more sternly, and he thought it was a navigator. He still didn't take his head out of the sight, but he spoke to the navigator. And the third time it said, "Damn it, Jack, get your head out of the sight now." And he tells the story of picking his head up, and as he did, a burst of flak came through and hit his flak, blew off two chunks of his flak suit where his head was. And he told that story without any sense of religion or spirituality to it, because he didn't have any church that he belonged to. But he told it on the aspect of hearing insights in your head and having a connection with deity, or someone told him that, and it saved his life. He had many, many examples of that. We were raised by a father who taught us to follow our insights, to be independent, and hear and listen and follow your inner voice.
So the inner voice, that's something that speaks to you, and you might even hear it sometimes.
You could hear it, yes.
Did you have that happen to you?
I had it, and my story is about the more that you listen to that inner voice, because I feel it comes from deity, and it comes from to all people of all faiths and religions.
Alrighty.
Okay? We make sure we understand that.
Sure.
That the more that you fall.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come back out, and I want to talk about some of the, we're just going to make this a little bit smaller, and I want to talk about some of my relationships with you guys, just about this topic, because so many of us go through so many things all the time, and so many of us are public about it too. We're aware that we have to be. That we have to discuss this stuff. Although some of us forget that this is a mission and it might just be entertainment, they almost act like, because there is ultimately the idea that we need to do something better. And so if we don't get around to figuring out what that better is and having these kinds of conversations, I contend, then all we are is just aimless energy, and that's not really how love works. Love is more organized. Love will carry out. Love will know. It makes sacrifices, but it's not disorganized and clumsy. That's greed. You know, people be, they're disorganized and clumsy. That's not love. Remember, these are two different spectrums. So you have to understand the energies that we're working with. Ultimately speaking, every time I view the world, I view it through a tiny different bit of a perception than you do. What that means ultimately is I agree with you on a lot, but that it goes further. And so that I explain to you about that difference. And so a lot of times I kind of strike many of you off balance a bit by doing that. But that's just part of being in my world. That happens a lot to me. I didn't choose that either. And so that's just what it is. Alright then, Phil, that's fine. You keep yourself busy, my friend. I know we're all indisposed, it seems to me. And none of us have time for love. And that's partly the blame is actually due to this problem with greed. You know, most of us won't spend our time unless it's making money or in the pursuit of some sort of agenda that involves money. And that's a shame, because it doesn't have to be that way. But people assume that's the only way to survive. So every time that they go around putting all that value in that money without realizing that money is just a tool. What a novel concept, huh? We don't even have to demonize it. In fact, we'll print more of it. We got a lot of work to do. And we know how to put value in that dollar when we're dealing with love. We know the power of that. Many, many more times. You couldn't even over-talk that power. But you have to have the people believe. And if you elect somebody that believes like that, well, then that would be pretty powerful, wouldn't it? And if that person came from the people and from the bottom, like is my history, instead of condescending against me, recognize that I have leadership qualities, and that we would all be better off with such a leader anyway, especially in these trying times. Not somebody with grandiose ideas or condescending at all. In fact, that's exactly where you want to put freedom. Look where it's headed. Look what's happening to freedom. I make a very valid case as a concerned American, because at the heart of it, we want self-determination. And love is what drove that, because freedom is part of love. That's how you know you're very correct on things, and that love ultimately is very pliable to so much. People think, oh, well, you can't overuse love because it hurts you, and it will. But love compromises. Remember, it's greed that does not compromise. And there's stark differences so that you can show its truth. God wouldn't have left you without this stark difference to be able to show the truth. You just have to find it, and then you have to see it. So that's how you deal with that. And ultimately, Happy Healing Methods gives you so many internal methods by which you can deal with your problems. That's why I say, let me know what you're dealing with so I can help you. So I can offer you some advice. I actually have some really good advice for you folks. Just allow me to give it to you. Allow me to do some love for you. And I have some people here, and I'm just going to read off some comments if I can get to them here. Remember, we're always trying to bust through that devil, right? And people, oh, this is just something I made earlier, and people comment to it and this sort of thing. And this is where we are now. We're actually live, and these are some comments I just made, and I was replying back to Phil right there. And, you know, I'm doing everything I can in order to make a life worth living for all of us. I'm talking and putting value to you and me every time I do that, not taking value away from us. Remember that. I know that the world wants to say that we don't have value. I know that. But you have to personally reject that. And it's that the love inside you is what does that. And you know that it's going to show up. And here's the thing. If I had already, say 1,000 people that were already on board, then it would already be feeding frenzied, just like no tomorrow, because love is that powerful. It actually is that strong. So, but the thing about it is it's hard because you're breaking that greed. It controls everything. So you have to actually come out of that. Love is so tiny compared to what it's up against. And everybody's using that energy. And greed, it tries to mock you. It makes fun of you. That's how the devil does, right? Think about it. You know this stuff. That's how the devil does. All this stuff at you. That's why I just laugh. I'm with God. Are you kidding me? And I'll cry. I have nothing to hide. Oh gosh, you foolish. We're just gonna let that sink in for a second. Wow. How did you get yourself so far off? That's why I say, a good family member says, you got to get your shit together. And you're being told that by a drug addict. Think about it. So, we have a far way to go. And I play with that, by the way. And I think you're smart enough to know the difference. I play with that because we understand what people are going through. And I've been through it. I'm the best to be able to solve that issue too. And I understand that the right answer for folks, even long term, might not be what you agree with what it is. And I understand a lot of things. Remember, love makes compromises. It doesn't need perfection. It just needs you to get a hold of it. That's all it ever needed. And then it was fine on its own. But then as if some of us want to be so blind. I can't see you. They're just like so blind. But that's fine. My vision is so clear. But they're so blind though. But that's the thing. My vision is so clear. But they are so blind. They are so blind. They want to put someone like me in a loony bin. Right? No, they didn't say that to me. But many of you said that to me. And because you don't want to right off the bat understand, so you go ahead and go in that direction. And just think about your happy healer on the other end. Oh, well, he's seen that before. He just busts right through it. No problem. That's nothing. Because I love you. And so you're ultimately, I know that when I love you, I can tell you, hey, you got to get your shit together. Because I love you. And that love does actually work. And that's what we're proving here, actually. And that love does work. But you have to also then yourself be exposed. You can't hide who you are and say to everyone else, oh, well, we all matter. Well, then that's a lie. And that's the whole thing. So the ultimate test, it was never judgment. It was forgiveness. And it was always about trying to understand more. People now, what are they lacking most? Information. They feel worthless. They have no value. And the only thing that provides value, I had a friend, and a lot of this is becoming even more relevant now. I had a friend recently tell me their value is locked up in their money. I kid you not. Think about that. No wonder. No wonder. Oh, there you go. No wonder. We knew it the whole time. There was something crazy trying to hold you guys back. Yeah, that greed. You got to open your minds to it. You got to realize what it's doing. And that it doesn't care. Oh, you expected it to care. No, that's your job. It's my job. That's why I'm here doing this tough work. We have to be doing it. Yeah. There we go, wrong one. Oh, I got both of them over there. So because we have a lot of stuff to cover, and I need to go over more, so I'm going to be coming on more. It just really, quite frankly, doesn't matter who's on or what's going on aside from that. A lot of people, they come see my videos later on, so it's easier for me to just do a live video, then it's less that I have to actually ultimately edit later on. And I really edit when it comes to getting these messages out, because we have to compete with so many other dark messages that are not life fulfilling, that just don't give and ask for nothing back, and that's it. So, and that's what this is, because ultimately I'm here doing this whether you give or not. I've been already being the Happy Healer for over a year. And what I'm trying to do right now is run for President of the United States to change all this, so we can let love get in there and be the solution to a lot of these problems. I think it's really a noble thing. It's a courageous thing if you think about it, because not many people are willing to take that kind of a step. They get so caught up in their daily lives. And I get that too, I get that. Because it'd be a lot easier for me to take that route. But it is really that I want a life worth living. I don't just want to go about the world and not do anything. I don't want to just be existing. People don't want that. And when you're on your deathbed, ultimately that's the truth that you hold out onto. It's not all that other stuff you did. Earning money doesn't mean anything to you at that point. You're not taking it with you. If things go dark and you're in the apocalypse, you're not worried about your various properties. They're all overran anyway. All of this fakeness fades as soon as anything bad happens, but yet during all the good times, it's taking and sucking everything up. And it's true. People are ultimately, they're told that they need to save they're tricked that their sustenance is their cash, and they're told they need to stick it away for a future date. And there is no future promise, however. Think about that one. And the promise is becoming less and less and less and less as they're giving the future away to another state at this point. That's what evil is doing. Do not underestimate what greed is after. That's what I'll tell you. Do not underestimate. You don't even have to know the agenda, but there's one, because it's greed. Greed is corruption by definition. You can't work off of greed from the bottom up. My friends can't be clean. How can the top be? And that's why I say we better start somewhere. And that's why I say support your happy healer while he is in that mode. And I have been in that mode for a long time. It just makes sense. It's the human psyche, the human condition we're after. Remember that. And so for us in the truth community, and for us who love God, ultimately we have common sense that we can see the truth before us. Remember, all of this creation, it is God's creation. So for those of us that fall under that category, which happens to be the majority of us, then common sense speaks directly to your heart. That's why I always say I'm speaking to you from that standpoint of an honest broker of truth. It's just the way it is when I speak to you. And that's the kind of president that we need. The people need to be able to trust. And we have not had a trusting president like that because we couldn't afford to. Love makes compromises, so we're not calling the people of the past bad. They had the love then. Love evolves. Love is amazing. And it brings out of us these things we don't even know where they come from, except for when we decide to live for our passions, they come from there. Live for your passion, I say to you, and discover what your fate is. Stop living a life that has no purpose, because you'll be sorry for that when the time when it matters the very most. You will realize you are pursuing stupidity. Remember, that girlfriend or boyfriend, it's not the kind of girlfriend or boyfriend you deserve to have, because ultimately speaking, they're operating off the same greedy element in our human condition that we all are, and it's affecting our relationships with each other ultimately. So the kind of love I have for you in many ways is more pure than the love you have for each other in your own relationships. Think about it. Think about that. I'm going to let that sink in because I'm on that level. And that's a commitment to a certain kind of lifestyle. And it's a good one. It's the one that says we have value and purpose in that life. And so I don't live in a depression because I get my value. I get it. That heaven is just to be known for me. And I live in that all the time. Don't you want to live there? Gosh, I think you do. It's a fun place to be. Everybody in the Mandela effect is feeling those feelings. All of them are. And so that's why I say it takes somebody of sound mind and sound body who's getting all this love, that's not becoming crazy with it, but that they can see the senses of what it is, to make sense of it, and to be able to dole that out in a way easy to understand for everybody. That's it. That's it. That's why I knew I had to speak. I didn't really say, oh, well, I would talk and people listen. That's the thing. So I've learned how to do media and to get better at this stuff so that I can have a platform so I could say this. That's all. And there's a lot to say, so we'll be around for a while. And that's why I'm running for president, because then I can get more viewers. And because we can change this world. So we can spread this great message and help save lives. And if we make the ultimate greatness, we can actually change our country in the process to somewhere where everybody is living a life worth living. Imagine then how your gun violence will be, folks. And yet all we do is what greed says to do, which is to take all of our rights until we have no self-determination left. And then somebody like me couldn't even step forward at that point. Remember, that's the world of Adolf Hitler. Truth. That's just the truth. We've had it happen. If we can't talk about the truth, then what can we talk about? Because that truth, that's God's truth. And it's our truth to share. You know, I just said, I'm open to so many things because God's truth is just so point blank. It's right here. I'm God's truth. Here I am. I'm right here. I am God's truth. I am a gay man. I know what my destiny is meant to be, my fate. It's meant to be loving. And that's how I found to do anything else. It's meant to answer questions to make us all better. And that's what I am trying to do. It's a privilege to be able to do that in my world. I love it. It gives purpose and meaning to life. And I have already changed lives. So guess what? I've filled up on so much of that love. I've got so much of it going on. I've saved lives already, many of them. So I'm doing what I can to save more. I mean, at this point, we're running headlong into a civil war. And besides, people who love like me, we always get it first. We'll be the first casualties. So then what happens to the love? Because when shit goes down, we show up first. That's love's weakness. That's what greed always does, tries to lure it out. Because it knows it comes out every time. That's the problem. But it's okay because love isn't stupid though. Love is not stupid. Oh, it sometimes falls for the trick because it's ultimately trusting. That's a cousin of love. But it is not stupid. It's the smartest of all, in that you have greed is so clever, but not nearly as smart as the pure truth. Greed has to operate within that truth. Truth can go anywhere at once. And who's making that truth? That's why I say it's so clear to see there is a God. And of course, that God loves. That's the driving energy. So that's of course, there's some people that would say, okay, well, there's nothing that I say. God, everything that's true about us in the sciences and everything, it's all within God's plan. So there is no difference between state and religion. What are you talking about? There is just humanity. And besides, with this idea, it doesn't matter. You can call it separate because it doesn't need it's by virtue of just what it is. It's the truth. I don't need to put a fake religion in there when it's the truth. Duh. It fits. It fits. It fits. Ultimately, why would you even care? It's a non-concern. We respect science completely. It's God's truth. So the thing is not even, it's irrelevant. You can have your fake religion if you're on one, or you can have your real religion if you're on one. It's all what you all call it. It's whatever you want it to be. It's your own place. You're the center of your own universe. Love yourself the most. Figure out truth. Share it. Because ultimately speaking, that's where we're going. And I have felt my truth to be pretty powerful. And we have to put that truth and throw it up against the wall and see what sticks and what comes back. My truth holds up. And I've inspired a lot of people. And so I'm not worried about anything that doesn't matter. Like viewership, for example. I am so focused on just a message. I'm leaving so much up to love because the truth of it is, that's all I really need to do. And I'm smart about it. I make the actions. I have a plan. Like I said, love makes concessions, yes. But it's got a staying power. It's got a strong staying power. It stays past everything. Greed can't survive on its own. Remember, greed can't afford to dwindle to nothing because once it gets to nothing, it drops. Love, it can afford to get to nothing because when it gets to nothing, there's a safety net. That's why you need an income for all. So that we can all blossom. In the new world, we'll have that. We don't even have to make a huge, great big difference. These are the things that people have been wanting. They see those truths like I do. And you have to make sure that people have their health. You have to make humanity matter. Now, you tell me, in a world where we see this kind of human stream with love ruling the day, and we let women decide whether they want to do abortion, they are the nurturers of life. I'm an honest broker of truth, and I honestly think when you put that in the new world's women's hands, that they will do what they think is right. And I'm not going to say, because here's the thing. My perception is different than yours. So we just have to be realistic. And in this way, the way we do business now, I'm for the status quo. Remember, love makes concessions. It's greed that has to go all the way. Love, it makes concessions that are right, though. And what it doesn't do is disguise those concessions as, oh, politics, we're just doing the best we can, but really it's corruption, everything fits in there. Doesn't do that. It's got a goal, a clearly set goal, and that goal gets accomplished because it's a powerful force and we're using the right force, and that we're not using that greed and justifying it. You'll never get the kind of leadership, the kind of world you want without racism, a loving world, unless you get rid of the greed. That's like a scientific fact. I am certain of this. Talk to a behaviorist. So what I'm telling you is that my truth adds up. And many people have tried to argue against it. And they just get frustrated. I don't know why. Some of them, they get lifted. And they come and they're with me on this lockstep. They understand. And I'm with them. I learn from them. First thing I usually do is go to their page. I want to learn about them. So that's why I was bringing up some of that stuff. But I also want you guys to see the nice background and just do a little bit of talking and digging deeper into this. I mean, there's no end to how many ways you can make and connect that kind of reality. It's so true about all of us. And it just hangs true. So what I could ultimately do is get, videos and these comments where we're discussing some of these things and really get to the bottom of answers that work for some issues that we're all dealing with. I'll tell you, earlier today, I had a girl that a picture came up on my feed and it had her wrists slit. Folks, this is not a world where people are happy in. You get what I'm saying? We have to think about those people because they're not the ones who can do the greed very well. They're the ones like me. They're the ones who love. They get depressed first. Remember, it's going to be hard to have. You want a perfect president. What you end up getting is a perfect liar. And that the people that are the best and closest to what you want, you condescend against. So how do you get that then? It's a contradiction. I'm sorry that greed lied to you like that, but I'm right here. That's what I say. And it's the truth. We know that. So that's why the truth should work. Can it work? I think it can, because then people have that conscience thing. I heard that. That's right, you did hear it. So you can't unhear that. That's the truth. I gifted you that when you can't deny it. Because we have to be able to deny that truth when it hits us. And all the time we're giving people tidbits of information they can constantly deny. That's why I say, I've been out there in the public hemisphere talking for over a year and nobody's denied my truth that I'm saying in this regard. And it's gotten better. Because I've ultimately had a lot of questions. That's why I came out too. And I continue to come out. And I'll continue to learn more. I already said this stuff. It's clear because I've already been at certain points where I thought were pinnacles and then you get higher. That's how you become more confident and that nobody else is talking about it. But we are. That's the thing. And yes, I hear you. Many of you. So many of us. You're at some of those lower pinnacles perhaps. Some of those are even higher than me and that they don't have the certain skills I have. Many, many, many. So many are higher than me. And the thing about it is, it's just for us to come together, just to realize we are here and somebody, for me, for example, I have certain skills I bring to the table and we all do that. And that's how the new world works, really. It's not one that has to take over anything. You do it willingly. And that's how love wins. But then greed demands a war. It wants the South to fight the North. It wants the liberals to fight the conservatives. It wants your money. My goodness, it never ends. And you know it's true. And that's just from an honest broker of truth. So let's see. We'll do some social media time here. Let's see what we got going on. Because I wanted to do a little bit more of this kind of stuff with you guys. Because I know you're some of you get pretty interested. And I want to have that connection with you directly. Like my brother and Chris. Hey Chris, how's it going, man? And Josh and Phil and Joanna. And so many of you guys. It's really cool because that is my favorite thing to do. Is to share the truths of our time with people who want to hear it, that want to also converse in that truth, because I want more and we all want more. That's the idea. And so that's sort of a big discussion I've been in online a lot, and I want to share sort of how some of that goes for me, because my goodness, it's just all some awesome stuff, you know. I love it. And we all get a chance to speak. That's why I say don't break our social media experience. Like, that's what greed does. It kills everything. Anything good that comes, it kills it. And so many people are blind of it. And they just let it take more and more freedoms. You can have your guns. Why can't you have those? Honestly, you got a broken human being. You're trying to take everything else away before you fix that. Stop. Fix that first. We'll still have all these other problems right there when we're done. And I guarantee you they won't feel like a problem like it is now. We'll be able to sort it through. And that's just the truth. So, we got a heart here from Chris. Thank you, Chris.
What's the way before you fix that? Stop. Fix that first. We'll still have all these other problems right.
All right, let's go to some of these comments here. Okay, this is a political group. Well, I should step out of here because it's a private one, and I don't know. Some people, they're so touchy about that. That's the thing. Like, we should be in a world, guys, where we can talk and have freedom of real speech and honest dialogue. How do we make progress otherwise? I don't get how we'll be able to do that. It's the truth. That's why we all get taken back when we see that honest truth hits us. But some of us, we accepted it, like that's the thing to do. But you know that and you actually fight for it, figuring, well, because you can feel that honest push towards it too, right? You could see it, you could feel it. So you're trying to be the anti-force. So that way no trickery gets in there. You're those really skeptical people. Stop being so skeptical, man. You're killing us with that one. I like the group with Cassie. Whenever you see her, you always have great stuff. So enlightened. So many of us are. That's why I always give credit back on to everyone. And they give credit to each other, because we all learn from each other. And we'll see here. This, I think, was on love earlier. I want to see. Interesting take, and directly on the issue that is responsible for killing us all in ways both small and large. The truest sense of what is eating us all alive seems to come to life even in this example from a vegetarian. And keep in mind, I used to be one, but now eat meat. I used to be one for 9 years. And maybe again. And it's a good thing. Animals are so cute. They show, dogs, in my view, they're so important. They show us how to love. There's so many truths in this real world that just show us how to be such decent people. And I love that the natural world, God's world, has that. That's really something to behold, remember, and cheer you up. Okay. So but this is God's truth. God's truth is my truth, in that I follow my heart, and God made me just like He made you. He made all of us too. We all have that ability to see this truth. And then I go on to say, Satanism is materialism, greed, lies, bastards. Happy Healer Love and is just love. That's just what and I'm not perfect. I don't say I'm perfect. I try to be as loving as I can, and I've gotten to a point where I've gotten so great at that. See, here's the thing. I say try to be as loving because ultimately there is a human condition to all of this. We all have a certain amount of hate in us no matter how hard we push, right? So we're always up against that fight. That's why you always have that greed that's willing to come out just a tad bit there. And when does that go away? When the love is, because it's so much more powerful once it's actually in power than the greed's temper. That's why it can't ever stay in flames. And that love can stick around. But if either were to really be completely extinguished, I think that would be it for the other side. But, you know, very at the end, there's still that kind of crush. And the thing is that love gets to that crush much quicker than greed is. It's getting there, though. It's moving. Okay? That's why it's time for us to really ramp this up. This is the way out. See, because there is justice in this world. Because love is that justice. And if we apply love, then we get the world we want. And that because it's part of the human condition, scientifically, it can overpower greed. I contend. We've never tried. But yet we have the reason to. And ultimately, do you want to be part of the people that are saying, no, I didn't rely on love because I like my greed more? Oh, geez. And you know, I even said, we've got to go into a world where we're putting humanity over capitalism. That's a compromise because capitalism is still breeding that greed. But we have to have a way to crutch ourselves up. We don't have this world. It takes somebody who understands how to make a transition. All I've ever made in my life were transitions. And we want to rely on people who don't even have our experiences. Remember, being gay has taught me how to tippy-toe around very sensitive issues. And I've had to eat my pride many times. I am so completely to the bone humble. So then I have to ask myself, what qualifications is in a leader then, if those are not good ones? And then so how could that person ever step forward if they were so that person, if they could never get the respect from their peers? And then you wonder, why haven't we ever had one? It's because the evil is too high. And so when you laugh or when you condescend, that is direct evil coming right out of you. That's why when I correct you, you come right in line every time. Especially the closer you are to me. Because it's wrong. I should be able to be taken as a serious adult. I'm speaking with love. I'm making a better argument, a smarter argument. And that's what love needs. Because that's what love is. It's very smart. It's organized. It shows up. It's the one there when everything else ran off. It's the one that's hanging out. It cares. So I have a lot more to say on this. I'm going to give it a break for now. And I'll see you guys possibly tonight again, because there is a lot that these weekends are great times to just come out and put some of these live shows out. Sometimes shorter too. Not every time I come on is it going to be this long drawn out thing. And sometimes it's shorter, and I like to play snippets of these programs. If you want to go back and finish watching that guy, I already told you, you can rewind and see more on that. And God bless you guys. I love you so much. My goodness. That's because I'm sincere in my mission. I realize that this is what we need. I wish there was a candidate like that, and I became that candidate. It makes good sense. It was probably love's hidden plan when you get that far. So I don't know, and it's not for everybody, remember, because if I didn't feel like I was able to find a path to victory, I think I'm the right age, I'm 40 years old, that I have the right look, that I could speak well, and I could forget about the nonsense that people seem to be able to not carry with them that moment. I realize how important we are. I get our worth even more than they do. Okay? So I'm not missing anything. Why would I not step forward? That's what you need to ask. That's my question to you. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Much love. Support your happy healer. Never mind for president if you got a problem with that. But guess what? It's actually a damn good thing. Support what I'm doing. I share love, and I depend on love doing it. And we have to have purpose-driven. If we don't have purpose-driven, we're wandering aimlessly. That's what greed does. It looks around for those opportunities. Wherever love is, it takes from. All right, we'll see you guys next time very soon. God bless you, and good night.